Back to pass for the Swedes is Ty Owens, and he fires and it's picked off. Picked off. Josh Sears going to run it back for the touchdown. Thresher. Hello and welcome to the Thresher Football Show. I'm Dan Page alongside head football coach at Bethel College, Josh Lawson. The Threshers coming off a home loss to Kansas Wesleyan, 38-7 the final score, as the Threshers go to 0-4 on the season and went through the toughest start to any season I think I've ever experienced here at Bethel. But nonetheless, they come out and this week on the road at St. Mary, a good opportunity for the team to go on the road. But before we get to that, Coach, I mean, you guys started well against Kansas Wesleyan. It was 7-7 there in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, thing is, we took 2 steps forward, one step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Throughout the day, I thought the first quarter we played pretty well. We made some mental errors right there at the end of the first half that kind of got us in a hole, and that's the thing. For us that we talked about a lot today is our margin for error is so small. We're a young team. We don't have a lot of depth. We don't have a lot of experience, so we can't make mental errors. And we've talked about that all year long. We just got to do we got to do a great job of fixing the mental errors, and I think if we can get that done, we can get some things going. We moved the ball early. Got a touchdown there in the first half and gave ourselves a chance, and then we made some mistakes right there at the end of the first half that really put us in a hole that we shouldn't have been in.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, into the first quarter with a nice 40-yard pass play to Josiah Buller, who, he was wanting the goal line by all means, but you come out and at first, I think it's second play of the second quarter there, and new quarterback, Houston Heron, thrown in there, and it's like, for a second, it's like, wait a minute, there's new, the defense probably had to be like, okay, what's going on here for a second? And, sometimes the defense is going to think, oh, they're just going to hand the ball off in that situation with a different quarterback, but he takes it in for a touchdown.
Yeah, Houston gives us a different dynamic. He can run the ball pretty well, and so he gives us a different dynamic. He can throw it as well. There's some things we've been working on this week about him getting the ball out quicker, and he's very coachable. And he's a young man again that doesn't have a lot of experience. So we're having to do things that help him, and then he has to help himself. And I think he did a good job. I think Houston probably played most of the game. I know he played pretty much the entire second half and a lot of the second quarter. So he gives us a different dynamic when he's in the game, and I was proud of him for moving the ball. The thing that we got to do is when we are moving the ball, we can't stall. And that happened to us a few times the other day, but really proud of the effort that he came in, hadn't played a snap of football in college level until Saturday, and did a great job for us.
Yeah, he came in. Byron Reese, guy can't catch a break sometimes. I mean, he's completing passes, things like that, and just about a lot of his interceptions, he's getting hit as soon as he throws the football, and it's got to be frustrating. I mean, but it is a competitive position any way you look at it.
Yeah, I think the thing that I keep talking to Byron about is the ball has to come out quicker. You can't wait for a guy to get open. You have to throw him open, and so that's something that as the game went on, he kept holding the ball longer and longer. And and not that I'm not down on Byron at all. I think Byron's got a bright future here. It's just as the game went on, it just felt like we had to make a change to give ourselves an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it is, a competitive game, things like that. But you guys scored, make it 7-7, and I think they responded with a touchdown of their own, and then they pooch kick it, recover it, and get another touchdown, and that makes things really difficult when you start to have that separation, which, for the most part of the first half, it was a close game. You guys were going at it. You guys were on defense. I feel like you did some things well.
But to stop you just for a second, not getting on to you here, but
okay.
they did do the pooch kick, and two things on that. Number one, I'd literally just told our kickoff return team, see the ball kicked, they're going to do something crazy right here. And one of our guys on kickoff return starts taking off early, and they kick it right where he left from, and then they recovered it. Now, to respond to that, our defense did stop them right there. So we stopped them, got the block field goal, but the field position had changed dramatically at that point. And that's the thing, when you're a team like us, field position is so important. And so right there, even though we did get the block kick, it didn't put us in great field position. And so whereas if we would have gotten the kickoff and returned it to the 40 or whatever, 35 or 40, like we should have, it would have been much better, and it would have kept our defense off the field for one more drive. And so, those little things right there, again, it's mental errors. It's mental errors. It's all those little things that when you're a young team and you just haven't seen things, you think you know what's going to happen, but you don't have a clue what's about to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You talked about the block field goal. I know Josh Shears was looking for the ball because he wanted to do something with it, one thing. And the second thing was they were a little unique with special teams, the way they lined up, kind of like a two-punter kind of look. And I'm sure you've seen that before. But it was really unique. I think they shanked one of their punts. I don't know if it was on purpose or not. But it's that'll definitely be confusing for a young team.
Yeah, and I thought we handled punt return pretty well. Especially with the unique look that they were giving us. But yeah, they do some good things special teams wise. And that's what I try to explain to our kids all week is like, hey guys, this team's coming in here feeling good about themselves. Like they're going to do some things that you normally won't see because they feel good about themselves and because we haven't played so well. So we have to be prepared for that. And I tried to prepare them all week. But again, until you see it happen to you, you don't really know what's going to happen. And every week, our guys are seeing a little bit more, and they're getting a little better at understanding what happens in a college football game.
Yeah, it definitely felt like compared to previous years against Kansas Wesleyan, Coach Middleton definitely has built them to be, I feel like, a more respectable team this season. They in the past, if you made a mistake, they let you hear about it, kind of thing. But that's college football for you. I mean, you got to play the game no matter what happens. But it's kind of frustrating at times. I know there's a lot of things to learn about your own team and strengths and things like that. And you never know what tools you guys are going to use now with Houston now into the factor of the run game. But you have so many guys. Somebody could go off any game. And a lot of talent there as well. But I feel like, for you guys at this point, everybody looks at success as, what your record is and how much you win by, things like that. I feel like you guys are kind of redefining that with getting better every day.
Yeah, and that's that. I knew that coming into it. When you've had 4 head coaches in 4 years, that, and you only really have, I think we have 6 seniors, and the average NAIA team has between 25 and 30. So I knew coming into this year that everything was going to be a battle. And so our definition of success from day one has always been just get better every day. And I shouldn't even put just in front of that. Just, it is get better every day. Because when you're 18, there's a lot of difference between a 17 and 18-year-old and a 22 and a 23-year-old, and that's where we're at. Like I looked out there the other day, and we had 3 true freshmen on the field at offensive line at some points, and they had a D-line that was really, really good, and so I knew that was just something that if we could uphold ourselves and get better throughout that, we would give ourselves a chance. We just made too many mental errors throughout the day.
Yeah, I was definitely I'm there with you as well. I know Josh Cohen there stepping up at tackle for Jess was huge for you guys. You don't know what you're going to be like until they're thrown in. I mean, I think that was his first start on offensive line since he's been here, and I think he's a junior now. So it's it's a lot of things you have to rely on. But I feel like for the most part he took a good job with his opportunity, and there were other guys as well.
Yeah. There's a bunch of guys in there. Quincy got to play more this week than he has been. Quincy was injured to start the first 2 or 3 games of the season, so he got to play some this week, and it showed at times that he hasn't been in a game yet, and then at times, he did a lot better. But that's the thing in college football is people get injured and it's got to be next guy up.
Yeah, it certainly has. I was talking about it a little bit on the live stream there for, whether if you guys switch coaches for a second, I feel like you would get the same result out of that football game. I mean, you guys, very good coaches, very respectable guys, and, it's just the situation you're coming into is completely different.
Yeah, just to kind of pause a little bit there, and I'm going to tell you a story real quick, and this just kind of shows me and Matt Middleton, the head coach at Kansas Wesleyan, we were talking before the game, and this meant a lot to me. We were talking a little bit because me and Coach Middleton, our careers are very similar, but not only that, our walk with Christ is very similar. And when we came to Christ and re-gave our life to Christ is very, very similar in time and the way that it happened. And one of the best things that I think has happened to me as a coach, Saturday before the game, Coach Middleton's son is quarterback there at Kansas Wesleyan, and he brought his son over and to introduce him to me, and he didn't introduce him. When he introduced, he said, "Hey, this is Coach Lawson. His story of coming to Christ is very similar to mine." And that meant a lot to me because he didn't introduce me as, "Hey, this is Coach Lawson. Our careers are very similar. We've competed against each other for years and years." He introduced me as, "Hey, this is Coach Lawson, and he's a Christian just like I am and just like you are." And I think that's a moment that shows like me and Coach Middleton are very, very much the same in that we want to shine the light of Jesus Christ every day in the way that we coach. And me and him talked before the game about some of the difficulties in that, because there's been times in our lives when maybe that's not what we were doing or what was important to us, and now it's very much the most important thing to both of us. And me and him, we had a conversation before the game about like how hard it is sometimes to control your tongue, and we talked about some of the tactics that he uses to help himself, and I talked about some of the tactics that I use to help myself. But that was really, I thought, a very, very important moment for both me and Coach Middleton. Is we're sitting at the midfield before the game, and we're not talking about football. We're talking about Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And that was very humbling. That's the first time I've ever sat at midfield and had a coach and two coaches talked about that, and so I love that part of it.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the great things about this level of football, and when these kind of institutions get together, that is a factor in things. And for many of us, that's the number one thing in our lives. And I actually was kind of witnessing a little bit of interactions with him as well. And he came up to the press box and said, "Oh, this place is so nice," things like that. And I just felt like all of his assistants were really kind as well. I know Grant Godsey, he played here and everything, but it was good to see him as well. But I definitely can it's really what it's all about, in the daily process, when people can see that from you that don't even know you. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because that at the end of the day, for a lot of us, that's our life.
That's what we're here for, man. At the end of the day, we're excuse me. All the trophies in the world don't matter. We're here to bring people to Jesus Christ. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more football here for a second. You can plug your ears if you don't want to hear these numbers if you want. But it's we talked about these things, but offense, rushing is still something that's we're trying to establish. Only 15 yards rushing as a team, I believe, cumulative for the game, and then I think it passed for 109 total. But that's amongst two quarterbacks. Obviously, Houston got the touchdown for you guys. Josiah Buller had another great game, 5 catches, 76 yards, had a 40-yard reception. He's like you defined him, Coach. I said that a couple weeks back. After he scored a touchdown at home, I said he's the ultimate Mennonite, just to kind of to put that on top of you. But you want everybody to be like that on your team.
I told the coaches Saturday. I know we put him in on kickoff return. We had an injury and put him in on kickoff return, and he catches the ball and he returns it for about 35 yards. And I look over at the coaches and I said, "I've been telling y'all all year, it's about being brave enough to run the ball, not fast enough. And you have to be brave in this game, and you have to have courage in this game, and that's what Josiah has. Like, Josiah's not scared to be hit. He doesn't dance. He just catches the ball and goes. And sometimes in college football, that's what it's all about, is just being brave enough to catch the ball and run with it.
He definitely seems like a guy that can tune everything out and just focus on what he needs to do. And, you want everybody to be like that.
He's a process-oriented kid, man. Whatever he's doing in that moment, he's trying to be the best at it he can be. And you're right, that's what you want everybody to be. You want them to be process-oriented. Whatever you're focused on right now, that's all that matters. And he does a great job of that.
Yeah, he definitely does. Also, Trayvon Madison ended up with 6 catches for only 25 yards. But, catching the ball is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what the yardage is a lot of times, just catching the ball and getting downfield. Kind of switching over to defense, you talked about the blocked field goal. Now, I had a difficult point of view. Was that Caleb Jefferson? Or at first second I thought it was AD. Get the numbers kind of confused and things like that. But that Caleb just as a freshman continues to be impressive.
Yeah, I thought it was really telling. When he got injured for a little while in the first quarter, and when he went out, put another corner in, and they went straight after our other corner, which he held his own. But that's really telling when a true freshman comes out and then they start going at that position and not right from the beginning. So Caleb's been doing a great job. He gets better every day. He's a focused kid. He's going to be a really good football player for us, and he has a great future here.
Yeah, he certainly. Yeah, I was feeling for him as well, because you could tell when he came back in a little bit, he was just a little out of it and things like that. But given time, and he did great. And once he recovered from that, Avery Richardson ends up with 7 tackles for you guys, which was important out in the flat and things like that. John Saxton, a name that we haven't really talked about this year, ended up with 7 tackles for you guys at linebacker position. A new guy to the team, but obviously, he's been doing some things to get him on the field.
Yeah, he, Jarek started cramping there late in the first half, and then we got him in the locker room, thought we had enough fluids in him to get him back, and he played another series and he started cramping again. Good news is he's back and healthy and he's ready to go. But Saxton came in and played well, especially first time to get a whole lot of reps. He'd probably had a total of 15 reps coming into that game, and he ends up getting about 25, 30 reps in that game and does a good job for us.
Yeah, that is the ultimate test of, getting in the game and performing there. And, not bad at all. 7 tackles and a tackle for loss at that. Kevin Hill, 6 tackles, and Gavin Patton those guys each have 6. And then Josh Sears again in the passing game, 3 broken up passes. I always pinpoint, when teams line up against him, and just point that out and just watch that matchup, because Josh has more often than not done his job. Yeah,
and I tell you what he's really good at is he's good at recovering. Every cornerback gets beat. It's part of the position. You're going to get beat. The thing that makes corner special are the ones that can recover, and Josh is really good at recovering. And there's times, you'll see it watching the film. There's times when it's like, oh crap, he's beat, but then he does a great job of keeping his eyes on his man and just running to the spot, and then finding the ball to break it up. So, really proud of Josh. That guy, he's in nursing right now, and he's in his senior year of nursing, and it's a lot of work, to be a nurse, and sometimes it's a thankless job that he's doing, but he does a great job of when he gets finished with all that work he has to do in the classroom, he turns around and comes out on the football field and does a great job for us.
Yeah, I've always been impressed with him, honestly, just because of his work ethic and his loyalty to his teammates. I think that was the biggest thing for me, just seeing him stick it out here for 4 years, because it's been proven time and time again, the guys that stay here for that whole time, that longevity, you increase your chance of success on the football field, especially at the small college level.
Yeah.
But, it was kind of interesting just kind of getting back to a little football scheme-wise. They tried to pick on you guys a little bit to try to get a pass interference call there for a while, because you guys were playing pretty tight defensively.
Yeah, I've known Matt for years. I told our team all week, I said, hey, guys, he's going to throw fades, not to catch them, to get pass interferences. And he does a good job of coaching that. Our guys, I felt like did a good job all day. We got, I think, one pass interference late in the game, which I thought was questionable at best. I thought it was two guys competing for the ball, and it could have went either way. I think that's one of the plays that normally just they kind of let go, but they decided to call it, and you got to live with it and roll on.
Yeah, certainly. It definitely seems like, okay, well, it's been this way the whole game. It should probably stay that way, kind of a thing. But I won't make you say anything you might get in trouble for. Yeah. But nonetheless, the Threshers 38-7 game didn't feel like a 38-7 game, But it was a good first half for you guys. Just gotta, like you said, Coach, take down those mistakes, and you've got a pretty good game together. Let's look at some of the other games from this previous week. I know one definitely surprised a lot of people. Well, maybe not surprised, but it stood out for sure. Bethany defeats Sterling 34-26. The Swedes, back-to-back wins, I believe, for them, which is huge for their program. But I can't remember the last time they had a 2-win season. I'll be honest with you, 2 or more. But they get a 34-26 win at home against Sterling. Southwestern wins 61-10 over Ottawa. Friends beats Tabor in Hillsborough 59-15, and then St. Mary, this week's opponent for Bethel, won against Avila 48-19. And then the game that ended after ours was, I think it was 10-0 Evangel at halftime, and McPherson storms back and wins 17-10 down in Nixa, Missouri. That was quite the performance. I haven't had a chance to fully watch the game, but when I saw that after reporting as the game goes, it was 10-0 at halftime or whatever it was. But McPherson surprised some people. Now they're in the receiving boats.
Yeah, I think McPherson's a really good team. I told Coach Fiskus that after the game. I said, man, if y'all play up to y'all's potential every week, you can beat anybody in the conference. Just like anybody else, though. If you don't play to your potential, you might not. But McPherson's a really good team. Evangel's a really good team, and both of those teams went to battle the other night, and it was a great game. Like I said last week, I try to watch every game in the conference on Sundays when I wake up, and that was one that you could tell those were two teams ready to go at it.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of defense. When you have the scoreline like that, but a different kind of second half, though. But 17-10 was the final there as McPherson beats Evangel. Mentioned St. Mary winning 48-19. That's their first win of the season. They started the year off with 0-3 record, and now the 1-3 Spires welcome in Bethel for this week matchup, and both teams playing their fifth game. Afternoon kick from Leavenworth. You can watch it on the KCAC network. It starts at 1 o'clock, not 6 o'clock. That has changed. We mentioned that a show or two ago. But Bethel at St. Mary, it definitely feels like, Coach, you guys, you're out of the storm a little bit, but you understand, yes, it's going to be hard to win a game, but you can't help but imagine, you guys have some confidence going into this one, seeing a team that's with a similar record to you.
Yeah, I think, for our guys, the great thing about this group of guys is that they've stayed together, and we don't really talk about the record of the other team going into the game because it's for us, it's not something that really matters because we just have to be the best version of us that we can be. And when you go into this game, the thing that I'd say about St. Mary is that they got a quarterback who can throw the ball pretty good. They got some receivers that are really fast. They got a running back that I really respect. I think the running back from St. Mary is very similar to the running back at Kansas Wesleyan. And they do some unique things, and the quarterback can throw it and he can run it. So on offense, they got some talent. Defensively, they're kind of like us. They've been trying to find their identity all year, and I think they've kind of found it a little bit, and it's been good for them. I think the thing about this week that we have to do, and I say it all the time, is we can't have mental errors. Our margin for error is small. But if we do the things that we're supposed to do the way that we're supposed to do them, we'll give ourselves a chance.
Yeah, certainly. You pointed out their quarterback, Eric Covington's his name. He's passed for 800 yards already on the season, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's not typically a guy that'll run much, so he's definitely sitting there in the pocket. we've been in the past able to break up some passes and get some interceptions, things like that against St. Mary. But their offense averaging about 32 points a game, 172 yards rushing, and 206 passing. So they want to be the balanced team and make the defense respect them by all means. A couple running backs. So their main one is number 4, Cameron Smith, and he's rushed it for 430 yards and just 5 touchdowns. They definitely like to throw the football. Their top receiver is one of the best in the conference coming back. His number 7, Michael Gazana, 20 catches for 420 yards and 5 touchdowns. They also have Delvin Lewis there with a couple scores on the season. But yeah, I mean, getting pressure on the quarterback has been huge against them in the past. When Bethel's been able to do that, specifically with D-line, we've been pretty successful against them. I know they'll try to pass it out in the flat, and we've had opportunities to blow that up. And it's just I feel like it's a good matchup for you guys against them, but obviously you got to suit up and play the game by all means against their offense. We're talking defensively for a second. Their defense, 3 fumble recoveries and 4 interceptions on the year. Their leading tackler is number 33, or linebacker Wyatt Ramsey. He has 33 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. But what I saw noticeably about him was he was really active defending the pass more than anything. And obviously that's one of the things linebackers do. Making stop the run and then respect the pass, things like that. But some do it better than others.
Yeah. Well, he's a big, tall kid, and so that length is unusual in our conference. And that's when you play against a kid like that, you have to understand that the ball has to be just a little bit higher, or a little bit come out a little bit faster, because his arm length and his height really is different than what you see most weeks in this conference.
Yeah, and he's their leading tackler, and then their other 2 tacklers on their team, leading the way, David Slaughter, 22 tackles, and George Hudson with a couple interceptions and a fumble recovery for their defense. But it definitely seems like if you look, and I know you're not concerned with a lot of stats and things like that, but some of their, maybe their weakness might be a little bit against the run, kind of looking at things for the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think the first 2 weeks of the season they were trying to figure out who they were. They were more in a 3-3 stack in the first 2 games of the season. They went to more of a 3-4 look now to try to take that run option away a little bit more. And so I think they've kind of found who they want to be on defense, and that's helped them a little bit. But anytime you start a season just like us in one defense and change to another one, which we haven't really changed anything, we just kind of go back and forth trying to find what we can do well that week. But I think they've kind of found who they are.
Yeah, they definitely, on both sides of the ball, have some, the guys that they need, and just still figuring things out, like you said, on defense, trying to scheme-wise. One of the things they do have the ability to do, when some teams, can drive down and not necessarily kick a field goal, they've got a decent kicker that can, kick it 20, 30 yards. Bryce Godfrey, he's 2 for 2 on field goals, both against Bethany in that game, which was a 49-41 shootout. And he's only missed 1 PAT on the year, so another solid kicker from that bunch. From special teams point of view, obviously you look for things on film that you can maximize on, just like you talk about anybody else does.
Yeah, I think I was very surprised when I started watching their special teams. Their punter does a good job. Puts the ball in different places and kicks the ball well, but then their kickoff guy and the kickoff guy can kind of scatter it anywhere, and he can kick it right, he can kick it left, and then on field goals, like you said, they can kick some long field goals. So they got some good special teams. We're looking for some places to try to help ourselves on that as well, and I think the special teams could come and be a big factor this week.
Yeah, ball position, just like we've been talking about, is huge, and special teams is the biggest influencer on that at times. But that's St. Mary's Spires and the Bethel Threshers going at it this week from Leavenworth. If you can't make it up there, just watch it on the KCAC network. Again, a 1 o'clock kick from Leavenworth, and always a unique campus with St. Mary because your locker room is down a hill and you have to walk up to go to the field. So, it's always it's not quite Avila where you walk almost a mile just to get to the field, but you haven't seen that quite yet.
No.
But I will say St. Mary has one of the best nice away locker rooms out of anybody in the conference. But definitely a unique experience there. It feels like the crowd's right on you and things like that. Just want fans on one side. But, a beautiful campus, by the way, up in Leavenworth. So let's run down this week's conference schedule. Just one other 1 p.m. game other than the Threshers and the Spires this week, and that's Ottawa at McPherson. Bulldogs coming off a victory, and now they return home to take on the Braves at 1 o'clock. And then everybody else outside of our game is at 6 o'clock. Avila's at Sterling. I'd be interested in that game. I think Sterling might be slightly have the upper hand on that, but we'll see what happens there from Smizer Stadium. Other games, Bethany goes to Southwestern. As the Swedes continue to try to get better and better every week and increase upon their 2 wins through 4 weeks, one of their better starts in recent years. Tabor's at Kansas Wesleyan. Be interesting to see. Tabor, outside of the Southwestern game, it hasn't really stood out too much. That was a 1-touchdown game. I'd be curious to see, how they respond in that kind of a game. But it typically has been a good game in years past. But we'll see what happens there in Salina this week. And then a big one, Evangel at Friends. This one came down to a field goal last year. And it was a big game in Wichita. Of course, at the time, both teams were in the same division, so everything mattered. But that Friends staff still looking for their first win against Evangel. That'll be a huge one at 6 o'clock from Wichita. So, Coach, we talked. I talked about those matchups a little bit, but obviously Evangel at Friends has got to stand out. But going to be a big game. Yeah,
Evangel and Friends. I think that's going to be 2 very physical teams getting after it right there. And Friends has the ability to score quickly. And score a lot, but Evangel has the ability to hold the ball for a long time. Like they can control the clock very, very well, and it's going to be interesting. Like that game might be both teams might only get 8 chances during the game. It literally could come down to, you're going to have to score on almost every drive to give yourself a chance. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that game plays out, especially, I know Evangel's probably not very happy with themselves right now. And so it'll be interesting to see how this week goes.
Yeah, if Evangel goes up to Friends and wins, that creates all sort of parity in the league, and you got the wheel of this person beat who, and then that person lost to this person. It's kind of what's been in the conference in the last 5 years or so. Mm-hmm. When back before we had divisions, we had the last couple of years of it, Bethel was tied for a conference championship with 1 or 2 other schools, and sometimes there's no perfect way to do it, but this year those 2 teams are playing in different divisions, and Evangel feeling pretty good, but like you said, coming off a loss, they'll definitely want to prove a point in Wichita this week. So again, this week it's Bethel versus St. Mary at 1 p.m. from Leavenworth, but next week is a big week on campus for Bethel College. It is Fall Fest week. It's a big deal. It starts on Thursday and runs all the way through Sunday. Lots of stuff going on. Taste of Newton on Thursday, always something that everybody looks forward to. I always see a lot of Bethel people there and players as well, and it's kind of cool just to try the different food things. Honestly, be a part of the community is a big part of what it's all about for the community coming together. But then you progress into the Saturday, and you got a football game. Bethel versus Sterling should be a pretty good one at home that night at 6 p.m. But a big week coming up. But first, the Bethel versus St. Mary this week. Well, Coach, I know last week we ended the show with a little getting to know you a little bit questions, but I'm going to ask you a few things about your team here to wrap things up in this week's show. You played 4 games already. Maybe you could say some of the players that have impressed you with the fact they may not have the stats or anything like that, but they've been doing the things the right way like you've asked them to do? Who are some of those guys?
I would point out Jarek Woodley. He's our Mike linebacker right now, who was playing defensive line last year, and and we moved him to linebacker, and he's really improving week to week. Caleb Jefferson, that's a kid that true freshman playing corner. That's not an easy thing to do, and he's getting better week to week. Frank Driscoll is just every day he's going to do exactly what he's supposed to do in everything in his life. He just does things the right way. When I think about it, offensively, you got Ethan Massa over there, true freshman playing at left tackle, and he just gets better every day. And there's things that, like with him, you have to remind him, hey, this is college football. You can't take a break. You can't take a play off. And he's a very coachable kid. He's a kid that really wants to do things right. And sometimes he gets frustrated with himself, and that's okay. Like I like the fact that he gets frustrated with himself, because that means he wants to be great. Tristan playing running back there has really stepped up. We didn't know that Tristan was going to play this year. He might have been a red shirt, and he stepped up and played really well for us, and been proud of him. And then, talking about, again, some of these younger guys, Ben Vincent, he was hurt a little bit and then came back, and he's done a good job for us when he's in there. But, we have a bunch of young guys that are getting better every week, and then you have the guys that about. Josiah just does, we talk about Josiah every week, Josh Sears every week. Those guys just do, they just do what they do, and so it's been really, really good to see some of these young guys. When you look out there on our D-line, there's times when we might have 4 D linemen that are out there that are all true freshmen, and so it's good. It's scary as a coach to see that, but at the same time, when you look at it, you're thinking, man, the future's bright. These guys are getting a lot of reps that they shouldn't be getting right now, but they're getting better every day, and there's a lot of kids on our team that are getting there. And when it happens, and when they find success and how to be successful, I think it'll just compound itself really quickly.
Yeah, you mentioned Ethan. He's one guy that I kind of circled to watch a little bit. He came from a very prestigious high school, St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida, and it's a big school. Very high level, nationally ranked, things like that. But may not always get the reps you want. But now you go into college, and you could do some pretty impressive things just with that foundation. Yeah. So he's one of the guys I definitely, amongst your freshmen, I'm looking forward to seeing him develop. And I really want, obviously with all the freshman guys, you want them here is all 4 years, things like that. But yeah, I mean, there's things that happen like that. But I guess some of the things. You probably dealt with this a little bit, whether it's, guys adjusting to living in Kansas of all places. Maybe they've got some difficult classes or just frustrated with the seasons so far. But, what's something that you're doing with some of the guys that are struggling with those things?
So, one of the things we do, and I've talked about this before, is every Sunday we have a group of guys over to the house and just to hang out and cook them a home-cooked meal and just get away from school for a little while, eat something outside the caf for a little while. And, this Sunday they all came over to the house and went out in the backyard and was hanging out, and we ended up building a fire, and all my firewood was a little bit wet, so I had to put some gasoline on it to get it started, and about burnt my hair off. But, they thought that was funny. But, yeah, that's one of the things is, we spend a little bit of time with them away from football and just trying to show them that we care about them as more than just football players. And I have guys in my office every day that I just sit down and talk to and check on them, see how they're doing. And then some of them are going through, that's the thing. Going to college is a hard thing for a lot of guys because they've never been away from home. And all of a sudden now it's been 6-7 weeks and they still haven't seen their mom or dad or grandparents or whoever it may be. And, another thing that happens is, there's a lot of things that happen back home that affect kids. And, I've had kids that since they've been here, somebody in their family's passed away or there's been a serious accident back home or there's been something happen with one of their close friends or whatever. And, trying to just spend some time with those kids and let them know that you care about them is something more than just a football player, and that they're more important than just being a football player, that that they're a child of Christ, and that's the thing that matters more than anything.
Yeah, they did a study about 10 years ago, Harvard University, and it was mainly with, people that come from single-parent homes or from foster families, things like that. But for any of these guys, all it takes is one caring adult to make a difference in their life and put them on the right track, and just say, to be there for them through, all their mistakes, things like that. And because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the support that's always going to be there, no matter how many times they screw up. And that, sports in general, your coaches, when you form that bridge with your players, it just enhances the situation.
Oh yeah, it really does. And as a coach, I think most coaches feel that way, is that we try to be another support system, or the support system for our players. The hard thing about doing that as a coach is you got to go out there and you're the one who has to correct them all the time on the field. And sometimes as a 17, 18-year-old kid and a 45-year-old man yelling at you, that's a little intimidating. And then that man turns around and tries to be the person that's supporting you. Sometimes it's hard for them to see that, hey, this guy just wants what's best for me. But I think we're doing a good job amongst our coaching staff of doing that, and we have a lot of coaches on our staff who do a good job of spending time with our guys outside of football.
Yeah, because first and foremost, they're going to look and see, what their coach is like, and think about that when they're handling situations, whether on the field or off the field, things like that, and it carries a lot into their lives. So a very, very important part of the game of football and sports in general. So, well, that's going to do it for this week's show. I appreciate everybody watching. Coach, I really enjoyed your wife kind of shared a little bit of our segment of our show last week, and that was really awesome to see. And we love having you guys here at Bethel, and I think everybody, they see the process and know that it's going to take time and things like that. But honestly, if you don't have, some of the more human things, right, that's never going to happen. And we definitely appreciate it, and we definitely appreciate everybody watching our program week after week. So come out and support the Threshers this week as they're at St. Mary up in Leavenworth at 1 o'clock kick, or you can watch on the KCAC network. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Dan Page for this week, telling you to roll on.